joining me today. We're going to be doing a kettlebell swing tutorial. So I'm excited to have you here. Say hi if you're here. I'd love to know if you're watching. Are you a beginner, intermediate, or advanced with your kettlebell swing skills? That way I can better tailor this tutorial based on who's watching. So let me know in the comments. And we're gonna dive into a swing tutorial. Today, I'm gonna be doing a tutorial into what I would call a hinge swing, a two-hand hinge swing. If you wanna know more about a pendulum style swing or sport swing, also let me know in the comments. We can cover that on a future live. But this would be the type of swing that I would teach somebody that is just starting out with the kettlebell swing and wants to learn to improve their strength, endurance, and power with kettlebell training. Okay, so we're gonna walk through some basics. Before we even grab the kettlebell, if I'm working with somebody and teaching them how to swing, we're gonna first make sure that you know how to squat and you know how to hinge. The kettlebell swing is more of what we call a hinge movement. So your shoulders are gonna be over your toes when you're in the back swing of the kettlebell swing versus a squat would be with your chest more up and you're taking a deeper knee bend. So sometimes a common misconception with the kettlebell swing is that it's a squatting movement so that you're squatting all the way down and standing up when you swing. That's actually not the most efficient way or the most correct way to do the kettlebell swing. Okay, so first and foremost, I want you to follow along with me if you're able to, starting off with some squats, just so you can feel. Okay, this is our squat. With the squat, we're thinking about keeping those shoulders up, core engaged, and we're taking a nice deep knee bend. Okay, so maybe your butt is coming in line with your knees, or maybe lower if you're really flexible. Okay, so that's a squat. You're using most of your quadriceps. Now, as we go into a hinge, what I want you to do is I want you to think of push your booty back, slide your hands down your thighs on the front of your shins. Okay, and you want to go just to about where your shoulders are a little above your hips. That's the lowest you're going to want to go on your hinge to protect your lower back and keep most of that exercise in your glutes and your hamstrings. So when we're doing a hinge, you should feel some stretch in your hamstrings and glutes. Ideally, we call that posterior chain, the back of the body, in order to do a hinge and to do a swing. Okay, so this is where you would start. Make sure that you understand how to do a hinge. This is also just like doing a deadlift. Okay, it's just the body weight version of doing a kettlebell deadlift. Here, and again on the deadlift, it should be mostly hamstrings and glutes that you're using. Okay, so that's the very first step, and I would recommend if you have not spent at least several months training your deadlift, training your strength there, that you start with that before you ever swing. So it is really key to build your strength in your glutes, your hamstrings, and your lower back and core before you start swinging. So you should learn how to do a hinge slowly with a deadlift before you do a hinge quickly in a swing. Okay, so then say you've practiced your deadlift, you're feeling really confident in your deadlift, and you've built some strength in your body from the deadlift. Now you're ready to start practicing the swing. Okay, so one drill I like to have people start with is called the belly swing. You're just going to grab hold of the horns of the kettlebell, and you're going to place the flat part of the kettlebell on your tummy. This is going to help you emphasize core engagement. What you're going to do is you're going to hinge back, just like we did on that deadlift, and then I want you to stand up quickly and exhale. And at the top, you're squeezing your booty, and you're hardening up your abs a little bit into that kettlebell. Okay, so it's going to be inhale back, exhale up. Okay, so you're going back slow, just to load yourself up, stand up quickly. Let's practice a few here. If you don't have a kettlebell, you can still practice with me. Just take your hands to your belly. Now, before we move on, I want to let you guys know that the kettlebell swing, as I mentioned, it's not a squat, right? We're not squatting when we swing, we're actually hinging when we do the swing. But that being said, it's kind of a combination between the hinge and the swing. So you're not just, keeping your legs totally straight and letting your torso come down. You are still getting a bend in your legs. So there are some people who swing with just a tiny bend in the knees and they lean really far down when they swing. That can also be correct, but what you can also do is you can take more of a bend in the knees and do a bit of like a squattier swing. Both of those swings are correct. It depends on which one feels better for you. As a beginner, I would recommend a bit more of a squatty swing because it's going to allow you to use your legs more and there's going to be less emphasis on the lower back. If you're here, first of all, this requires a lot more flexibility in order to keep your back flat because otherwise you're going to be kind of like this, right, which is not good. So to keep your back flat, you need more flexibility in your hamstrings and that swing's going to emphasize the lower back more. So you want to just know that you should have a pretty strong lower back if you're going to start with that version. I recommend starting with a squattier swing first. Okay, so we've practiced that belly swing, okay, that emphasizes the core, emphasizes your breathing. Let's practice it one more time. If you've got your kettlebell, follow along with me. Press that kettlebell kind of right around your belly button. Inhale back, exhale up. Let's do it 10 times. And go ahead and rest. One important thing I want to note again about this drill, and it's going to come into play with every other swing drill we do, is at the top of your swing. One thing you want to make sure of is that you're engaging those glutes and you're engaging your core. What that's going to ensure is that you're nice and straight at the top instead of, say, you're squeezing your glutes, but you're not really engaging your core. What's going to happen is you're going to end up kind of like this at the top, okay? Or if maybe you're even bending your knees and you end up like this. Guess what that's going to do? It's going to make you feel your lower back a little bit more than you need to, okay? So we want to make sure that not just is your booty engaged, but you're using your core. And if you're not sure how to do that, if you have a little bit of trouble with it, another exercise I would highly recommend is practicing and getting good at before you swing is the pelvic tilt. Okay, so this is a basic exercise that I teach in all the classes and programs that I teach within the Kettlebell Solo membership. I found it to be really helpful for me to better connect, especially with my lower abdominals. Okay, so all you're gonna do, soft bend in the knees, you can take your hands to your hips and just tilt your pelvis. Tilt the pelvis. We're using the lower back and then the lower abdomen to tuck under. So actually my glutes are relaxed because I'm learning how do I move my pelvis without using my glutes. That's how we're going to really better understand how to engage the core. Now, why is this so important? This is important on every strength training exercise for you to better understand what position is your pelvis in, and are you emphasizing your lower back or are you emphasizing your abs? Okay, so when you're in a swing position, which one do you want to be? If you're in the back swing, do you want to have your lower back more engaged or your core more engaged? You let me know in the comments here. Okay, so you can still let me know your answers, let me know your guesses. But what we want in the backswing, we actually want both. We want to find kind of a middle ground. So if I really stick my booty out, I'm going to really be overemphasizing my lower back. If I tuck all the way under, I'm going to feel abs, but I'm also going to be kind of placing too much stress on my lower back. So you want to find a middle ground where your lower abs are engaged, but your booty is out, okay? So that's why the pelvic tilt is another really important exercise to help you better understand how to swing. Okay, so we're gonna go back to our swing drills. So we practiced our belly swing. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna practice our shadow swing, and that means we're just gonna practice the timing of the swing without the kettlebell. Now this is a step I feel many people skip when it comes to learning the swing. It's difficult to learn how to sync up with the timing of the kettlebell, and it can be really useful to practice the timing without the kettlebell first. Okay, so what that would look like is, I think of starting the kettlebell at the top of the swing for you to better understand what happens here. So as that kettlebell comes down, you're going to slap your thighs and then go into the backswing, and then you're going to stand up quick, slap your thighs. Okay, so you may want to practice this slowly before you practice it quick. Okay, we walk before we run, we crawl before we walk, right? So what we're going to do is slowly at first, just bring your hands down, no bend in the legs at all until the thighs slap. Why do we do this? This is going to help you a lot, making sure you don't hinge early on the swing and overwork, again, your lower back. Okay, so thigh slap, backswing, stand tall. Thigh slap, backswing, stand tall. Thigh slap, backswing, stand tall. Okay, and you may need to practice this at this slow speed for a few weeks, okay, to really get this timing down. But it's really well worth the effort. It's going to be way easier when you do pick up the kettlebell if you practice this timing first. If you go right into grabbing the kettlebell and your timing is wrong and you practice it for reps and reps and reps, you're going to have to undo a bad habit, which is way harder than taking your time learning it in the first place. Okay, so when you're ready, when you feel really confident with that, you just speed it up to the speed of an actual swing. Okay, so it's going to be. Okay, so again, if you can't do that yet, that's okay. I would recommend you start there and really master that before moving on. Thank you, Shashant, for subscribing. I appreciate it. Okay, let's move on to the next part of our tutorial here on our kettlebell swing. So once you've got that down, okay, once you've got that timing down, then we're going to move on to a bump swing. And again, you want to make sure that you can do that shadow swing at real time speed. Okay, then when we're ready, this is the version I want you to start with. I'm going to show you first, and then you're going to try it along with me. So you're just going to keep the kettlebell between your knees, between your feet. Before we do that, stance, width of your stance. Okay, so there's different widths you can use. So I call feet right under the hips neutral square. Feet any wider than that is going to be called a wide square stance. You can use anywhere between a neutral and wide square stance. It's going to depend on what feels comfortable for you. Okay, so for our bump swing, what we're going to do, start in whatever stance is comfortable. I'll show you first. You're going to pick up the bell like a deadlift. Okay, and then you're just going to gently kind of start bumping the swing up and practicing your hinge until you get to the top, to a regular range of motion. Here we do 5 reps, 4, 5, and then we bump it. Use our legs to slow the momentum and set that bell down. Okay, so a great way to just use momentum to start the swing and start to get into the rhythm of the swing. Okay, so let's try that. If you've got your kettlebell, let's try this together. Okay, get ready. Stand tall with your bell and start bumping that bell little by little until we get that kettlebell to chest level. Okay, then we'll go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and bump it, and set it down. Okay, so if this is your first time swinging, you may notice that it can be challenging to get the timing right. So you may be having a little trouble, like when the bell comes down, you may be starting to push your hips back early and then it feels off on the way up. It's a normal part of the process. This is why, number one, You want to have strength available to you before you ever start doing the swing, so that if you do it wrong, putting a little bit more pressure on your lower back, it's no big deal because you have some excess strength built up. And then it's going to take practicing that shadow swing, practicing the timing and being able to get that timing of the arms and the legs and what the bell is doing correctly before you add the kettlebell. So if that's where you're at and the timing feels a little bit off, know that these drills are better practiced over a longer period of time than I'm showing within this quick live. So I'm showing you a bunch of drills that you can use over the course of several months to teach yourself the kettlebell swing. Okay, so we'll move on to what the next drill would be that I would move on to. You feel comfortable with that bump swing. Okay, what we're going to move into is the dead stop swing. So this is a really good way to practice your setup for your first rep. Now this is important because if you are ever swinging a heavy kettlebell, you want to make sure that from your first rep, you're using the effort that you need to meet that heavy kettlebell and you're getting it into the right position to use your legs effectively and you're not using your arms or your lower back more than you need to. So it's good to practice a really good start with a light kettlebell. So you just set the habit, you don't have to think about it further down the road. Set yourself up for success. Okay, so for the start of a kettlebell swing, what you're going to do is you're going to set yourself up in like your backswing position. You would tilt the bell towards you, shift your weight into your heels, and then you're going to think about breaking that kettlebell handle. What that does is it's going to activate your lats and your upper back. Okay, so you tilt the bell, you're going to think break that kettlebell handle, nice and strong. You're engaging your abdomen, okay? This is your starting position. So I want you to practice that a few times, just getting set. Sitting your hips back, grab the kettlebell, tilt it, shift weight into your heels, break the kettlebell handle and engage your lower abs. So right there, that should feel like an isometric strength exercise for your upper back, for your core, for your hip flexors, maybe even your hamstrings. Okay, so sit, tilt the bell, break the handle, engage the abs. Okay, from here what we're going to do is we're going to just swing the bell back and then park it. Okay, so this is just going to help us practice. Set up, swing, park it. Swing, park it. Swing, park it. So that's actually, I said the dead stop swing. This is a step before the dead stop swing, but that's a good one to practice just with your setup position first before you actually execute your dead stop swing. So setup position. Okay, and then we're going to move into that dead stop swing. Okay, so for this, it's like practicing the first rep of a set over and over. Okay, so you set yourself up, break that kettlebell handle, swing it back, stand tall, bring it back down to the ground. Okay, so right back into that starting position. Break the bell handle, stand tall. Okay, so the thing I love about that exercise is it gives you a few minutes after each rep to think about your next repetition, to remind yourself of the cues you want to remember for your next rep. Okay, so really, really valuable exercise. Even once you've learned the swing, it's a great way to load up the legs a little bit more intensely, especially with a heavier kettlebell. So great exercise to keep in your arsenal. Okay, so lastly, from here, once you feel really confident with that dead stop swing, you would move into the two-hand swing. Okay, so you would just move into no pause between reps. Set yourself up the same way, set the weight back, engage your lats and core, swing the bell, stand tall. And park it. So those are the steps I would recommend when you're first learning the swing. Love to hear any questions that you guys have that I can answer here. Yeah, I got Kettlebell Solos on here answering questions for you guys. So yes, it is an 8 kg kettlebell, an 18-pound kettlebell. I would recommend starting very light with your swing, somewhere between, 5 and 20 pounds. You really don't need anything heavier than that when you're just teaching your body the new range of motion, the new speed, the new timing, especially for working on speed and power. It's best to start that with a really light kettlebell. Okay, you only move heavier once that light kettlebell is too light for you, and those heavier bells, whatever bells you're swinging, should not by any means be a max effort strength to lift those bells. Again, if you're working on speed and power with a swing, it should be a light to moderate weight as you get more advanced through swings. Hi AJ, thanks for joining. Let me know if you have any questions on swings. Thanks Mark. Do you have any questions for me, Mark? Let me know. I'll review real quickly what we went over and then take any additional questions you guys have. Or if there's anything you want me to troubleshoot on a swing, let me know in the comments. Is there anything particular you struggle with? Let me know. Hi Casey, thanks for joining. Okay, so we talked about knowing the difference between a squat and a hinge, okay? And that your swing is more of a hinge, but it's somewhere between, you don't have to have totally legs straight. You can be more of a squattier swing, okay? And that's really gonna target your legs versus if you have straighter legs, it's gonna target more of your lower back. Then you wanna make sure that you have built up plenty of strength in your hinge, in your regular hinge, like in a deadlift, right? Like you have plenty of strength on your deadlifts, you've trained them, you've gone up in weight, you should be able to deadlift at least several times. Like if I'm swinging an 18-pound kettlebell, you probably should be able to deadlift like 50 or 60 pounds before you attempt swinging a kettlebell. So make sure that you've taken the time to put in the due diligence and built that strength before you try to do a dynamic power exercise like a swing. Okay, then we talked through belly swing. Emphasis on the core here, emphasis on the breathing. Then my favorite exercise that people often skip, that shadow swing. So getting your timing right, doing it slow at first, slapping the thighs first before you go down, and then over time, getting faster up to real-time speed of a swing. Then you can move into practicing a bump swing once that is mastered. And again, that might take several weeks to master. Bump swing, you're simply going to stand up, start using that momentum to push the bell. Okay, so it can be a little bit slower, and then pushing it into that top position for however many reps, and then slowing it down with your legs and setting it down. Okay, great drill that you don't have to worry too much about the starting of the rep. You can just kind of go right into the middle of the swings and get used to moving your body in that way. And then there's going to be your drill where you practice that starting position. Okay, so sinking weight back into the heels, tipping the bell, breaking that bell handle, lower abs engaged, swinging the bell back and tapping it. Okay, just getting used to that starting position. And then from there you can progress that to dead stop swing. And then once you're feeling really confident with that, you can go ahead and try the full-on two-hand swing. Making sure to always set it down using your legs. No, I can't do a backflip. I don't flip. Any other questions on the swing or any other questions on kettlebell training? Anybody interested in knowing anything about the pendulum swing? Let me know if you have questions on that or if you want to know what that is. What I showed you today is also known as a hinge swing. Some people call it a hard style swing. Thank you, appreciate that. Glad you enjoyed it. Any other questions? Okay, what would you say are some good benchmarks to know when someone is ready to start swinging? That's a good question. So ideally, as I mentioned, you should have I would say at least 4 to 6 months of a sustainable strength training program that strengthens your legs, your abs, your back, and your upper body as well. So just a great strength training program. If you don't know what that looks like, you can do it through Kettlebell Solo. So it's a foundational style of kettlebell training that I teach. We have programs and follow along classes that help you to build the strength you need in order to swing safely. A swing is not a beginner kettlebell exercise. You should have at least 4 to 6 months of strength training. You should be able to, say if you want to swing an 18-pound kettlebell, you should be able to deadlift a 50 or 60-pound kettlebell, no problem, and that you feel that mostly in your legs. You feel really solid with your lower back and your engagement to your core. I would say if you have any kind of lower back pain, stiffness, swings might not be optimal for you at this time. I would work on your strength and your mobility before you start swinging. Mark asked, how important is the exhale and the swing's timing of the exhale? Well, it depends on what your goal is and what type of swing you're doing, because there's different types of breathing that you can do for a swing. So I would say, I think it becomes more important the heavier you're swinging. If you're swinging very heavy, paying more attention to the bracing of your core and an exhale breath. If you're swinging heavy with a two-hand swing, very important. And therefore, I would say it's pretty important with a light bell to train that, because it'll set you up for success with a heavier bell. That being said, if you are swinging more for endurance, if you're staying lighter and swinging more for endurance, you might breathe a different way. So for example, kettlebell sport style swing is one that is a little bit like slower. It looks like this, and you would actually exhale on the backswing, okay, which is also known as anatomical breathing, and it's more the type of breathing you would use in something like yoga. It's more of an efficient way to breathe. So there are different ways that you could do it. So it's important, and it also depends on your goals, because your breathing style may look different depending on what your goals are with your swings. Humberto just asked, could I demonstrate the pendulum swing? I just did, but you also can, with both swings, of course, you could do a single arm. So you're more likely to see the pendulum swing being done as a single arm swing. It's what people who do kettlebell sports swing the kettlebell this way. It can feel a little bit more tricky to learn. This is more swinging for efficiency. Again, it's a little trickier to learn. So I would start off by teaching somebody a hinge swing, and if they wanted to learn the pendulum swing, that's something they could learn as they get comfortable with the hinge. Alistair, you asked, how many times should we do kettlebell workouts? I assume you're asking how many times per week. So you could do anywhere between like 2 to 6 days a week. It depends on the length and intensity of your workout. So the more days a week you want to do, the shorter your workout should be, so that you have the ability to recover for the next day. If you want to do, 1 to 2 hour workouts, I would recommend 2, no more than 3 workouts a week. You don't really need a 2-hour workout with a kettlebell. You can get a great workout in 30 minutes. I have a lot of programs and classes that you can follow on kettlebellsolo.com. I'll drop that link for you here. But that's where you can find the programs and classes that are how I recommend training with kettlebells, especially for beginners. Janice, I saw you had a question. What is that trying you refer to called? I'm not sure what you mean. Let me know what you mean and I can clarify for you. AJ, I saw you ask for a kettlebell sport swing. Is it absolutely necessary or advised to make 2 knee movements, or is a kettlebell sport swing even okay with only 1 knee movement? That's a good question. So for kettlebell sport, so if you're doing that swing just for fitness, you could do it any way you want, but I would say if you're doing just this, it's not, in my mind, this is not a pendulum swing, this is not a sport swing, it's a hinge swing. Okay, so it's still a hinge swing, even if you're maybe altering your breathing. And again, that's not necessarily a bad thing. If you're working on your fitness, either type of swing could be used to build your fitness and your endurance, your strength. But a pendulum swing, which is what a kettlebell sport swing is, requires that you do the double knee bend. Why? Because if we look at how a kettlebell would naturally swing if it was just attached to a string, right? It was attached to a rope and you pushed it. This is the natural way that the kettlebell moves. It's a pendulum, right? It goes up and up and up and up. So in order for us to mimic the natural way the kettlebell moves to be as efficient as possible, which is the goal of kettlebell sport training, so you can do as many reps as possible, we have to do the double knee bend in order to follow that path of the kettlebell, as well as with a sport or a pendulum style swing, the direction that you're trying to project the kettlebell is different from a hinge swing. So with a hinge swing, if I let go of the kettlebell at the top, where would it go? If I just let go of it at the top, which way would the bell fly? You can guess in the comments if you want. And I'm going to answer it because I'm too impatient to wait for your answers. So the bell would go that way if I were to let it go. It would kind of go that way and then it would drop, right? With a pendulum swing, if I were to let the kettlebell go at the top of the swing, what does it do? It flies up a little bit, right? So the direction in which we're pushing the kettlebell is different. For a pendulum swing, that is very, very important because you're trying to be as efficient as possible and you're trying to direct the kettlebell into either the rack position or the overhead position, which means the kettlebell needs to go up. Okay, so if you're doing a swing this way, it makes it much easier to bring the kettlebell into the rack position. So yes, the double knee bend is essential to do a pendulum swing the correct way. Just to, I see you ask, what better time to exercise kettlebell? Any warm-up? I'm not totally sure what you mean. What's the best, are you asking that what's the best time to exercise with a kettlebell? I'd say the best time to exercise with a kettlebell is the time that you have available for you that you're able to do consistently. And as far as a warm-up, like if you're going to be doing kettlebell swings, a warm-up I would recommend is joint mobility and basic body weight exercises. So for example, almost every single kettlebell solo class I teach, I start with neck mobility. Okay, so I start with just gently up, down, side to side, you know, ear to shoulder. I'm speeding through it, but you would be doing multiple reps, okay? And then maybe you do some like shoulder rolls, okay? And then you're gonna do some pelvic tilts, what I showed you earlier. You're gonna really work on isolating your lower abdomen and your lower back. And then you may go into some hinges. Okay, maybe you do 10 reps and then you're gonna go into some squats and warm the legs up for 10 reps. And then maybe you'll do a little ankle mobility. You do some pointed flex or you do some circles. So that's a really basic way that you could warm up just 1 or 2 sets through depending on what you have time for. I see Yumburger, you asked, have you ever tried mace bell workouts? It's similar to kettlebell, but the weight distribution is on one side, it's a lot longer. I recommend it. Yep, I have done lots of mace bell training. I've done a GATA competition before where you do 360s for 10 minutes. So that is definitely quite a tough, it's great for the shoulders and the upper back and the core. Yeah, they're great. I don't have one. South to west, yes, what post-workout stretches do you do? That's a great question. So for post-workout, one of the things I love to do is, again, a pelvic tilt, like for swings, for example, at the risk of getting strange comments on here again, in a hinge position, say you did the swing, okay, you go into a hinge position, support yourself, and you do your pelvic tilt, okay? So it looks funny, but, so maybe you don't want to do it in the gym or you do it in the corner of a gym, but if you work out from home, you know, just who cares? And it feels really good to like loosen up your lower back. So that would be one of the main things. And then depending on what you worked, maybe you want to stretch your hamstrings. Like a favorite one for me is like maybe a stagger stance and stretching maybe 30 seconds to a minute of my hamstrings on both sides. Okay, maybe a quad stretch, maybe a figure 4 stretch. That's a good one. I also love just like a downward facing dog if you've ever done yoga with a march. So you bend one knee and then the other. Okay, I also love like a cobra stretch with a rotation where you turn and look over your shoulder. That's another really great one. So There's a lot of different great post-workout stretches. I think, again, most important is that you just take 5 to 10 minutes to stretch. Even if it's not a really long stretch, you just maybe visit those positions and get your body acclimated to them. The lower back, you have a herniated lower back. I'm assuming that you are asking whether swings are bad for your lower back. Kettlebell swings are not bad for your lower back. That being said, it may not be for everybody, depending on what's going on with your body. So if you have a herniated lower back, first I would ask you whether you're cleared by a doctor to exercise. Okay, if you're cleared by a doctor to exercise, I would not start you with the kettlebell swing. As a personal trainer, as a coach, I would not start you there. I would start you with pelvic tilts. I would start you with joint mobility. I would start you with something more gentle when it comes to kettlebell training, like Kettlebell Solo, which are the classes and programs I teach inside my membership. So that's what I would recommend before you ever start swinging a kettlebell. So the swing may be a helpful exercise for you, but it's not something to do right off the bat, especially if you already have any kind of lower back pain or tightness. You want to be cautious because you do not want to exacerbate pain. As a personal trainer and a coach, I'm always thinking about not making somebody, I never want somebody to feel worse after a workout. I always want you to feel better, okay? And that means if a certain exercise isn't right for you, who cares? Kick it out. I'm not tied to any particular exercises. Everyone needs to do this. That just doesn't make sense. Everyone's body and life circumstances, injuries, their history is different. So you should adjust that based on what's best for you. AJ, I see you have a question on knee pain. Yeah, so to answer a general question like that, like I could give some basic recommendations, but of course they're probably going to be pretty basic, right? They're not going to be super helpful without knowing more about your particular body. That being said, I think the more knowledge you can gain about your body and the more in tune you can become with your body, the better you are able to figure out how to heal yourself. Because you are the person who has the most power to make a change within your body when it comes to your pain, stiffness, illness, whatever you have going on. You're the person who has knowledge that nobody else has, which is what it feels like in your body and your day-to-day dealing with yourself and your body. So if you're experiencing pain, one thing that I could recommend that's pretty basic is just recording notes about your pain. So recording when you notice the pain, if you think it was correlated to anything, jotting these notes down in a journal over time so you can start to see if there's any particular patterns. If you're in pain, I would also recommend taking a look at your diet because inflammation can greatly increase pain. Then I would take a look at your hydration too, of course, and then take a look at your movement practice because sometimes people are doing a movement practice that is exacerbating pain. Doing gentle joint mobility, doing pain-free range of motion. If your knees are something that's bothering you, making sure that you have good connection to your quadricep muscles and to your glutes and to your hips, okay? Because often, having joint pain here isn't necessarily addressed by, oh, I need to do something with my knee joint. Sometimes it's addressed by joints above or below. But again, it's hard to give a specific recommendation without knowing more about the situation. I would start with, start recording some notes and things that you notice and use that to help you better understand some patterns. Any other questions that you guys have about the kettlebell swing, kettlebell training, or training in general? You're welcome, AJ. I hope that helps. So while I wait for your questions, I want to let you know that I'm going to be doing another live on Wednesday. This is going to be at 9 a.m. Pacific time, and we're going to be talking about, I just looked over at my calendar to see the topic, but of course it's not up there. I'm going to be talking about, I'm forgetting, of course. Oh, I'm going to be doing on Thursday, I'm going to be doing a beginner full body kettlebell workout that is with a single kettlebell. So definitely join me for that. If you're interested in doing a workout together with me, that's going to be on Thursday at 4:30 Pacific time. And then on Wednesday, I'm going to be talking about how to structure your workout. So this was one of the most commonly asked questions I've seen you guys list in the live is how do I program my workout? So I'm going to talk a little bit about that and give you some advice and feedback on how you can think about that. So if you program your own workouts, then definitely attend that one on Wednesday. Hi, Monica. Thanks for joining from Poland. Eugene, good question. What's the proper posture for kettlebell swings? Hey, no problem. That's okay. So the proper posture, so your body position, we talked a little bit about the difference between a squat, okay, and a hinge. So a kettlebell swing is more of a hinge position. That being said, there's different ways to do a hinge. One would be just a slight bend in the knees and leaning way over, versus having more of a bend in your knees, what I call like a squatty or hinge. You can do a swing either way. For a beginner, I recommend more of a squatty swing because it's going to ensure you use more of your legs. So some of the important things to think about of what you want your posture to look like is you want to make sure that you're not rounding through your spine, okay? You're not tucking your tailbone under, so you're sticking your booty out and you're engaging your upper back, and then you're engaging your lower abdomen. And then as I mentioned, you can have a bend in the knees. Just want to make sure that your shoulders are over your toes and that your shoulders are above your hips. At the lowest, they should be at hip level, but again, that's going to place more work on your lower back. So if you want to focus more on your legs, keep those shoulders just above the hips, and that's going to help you engage more of your glutes and hamstrings on the swing. Let me know if that answered your question, Eugene, or if you have any follow-up questions on that. Any other questions on the swing? Or if you guys have live suggestions for me, what you want to see. Obviously, I've already picked the topics for this week, but topics for next week are open. So if you have any specific topics you want me to cover, if you want me to cover the pendulum swing or any specific other tutorial, let me know. I'd be happy to do that. Would love to hear what you guys want to see. The truth, I saw you just said, my upper back and neck always hurts. Please help. Are you talking about during a swing or in general? Let me know so I can better answer that for you. You're welcome, Eugene. Kettlebell solo, could you demonstrate some accessory exercises to help strengthen the body to prepare for swinging a kettlebell? I know why kettlebell solo is asking this, because kettlebell solo itself is the answer to this question. So some exercises that are a great way to build up your strength for a swing and to prepare your body for a swing. This is a great question. This is just the question. I should have added this in earlier, but I'm glad we're getting to it now. So one of the exercises that I love most for preparing your body for a swing is the shin circle. Okay, so for the shin circle, you would take either, again, like a neutral square, feet under your hips, or wide square. You can do it in either one or both. And then what you're going to do is you're going to hinge like you would for your swing, and then you're simply going to circle the kettlebell around your shin. Okay, so you'd maybe do 5 to 10 slow reps each direction, and then you would switch to your other leg. Okay, 5 to 10 circles each direction, and the key here is to go slow. So what does that do for you? What that's going to do, it's going to build your isometric strength in your core, in your lower back, in your lower body. So that's really going to set you up to do the swing, to have the strength, stability, and endurance to do a kettlebell swing and to prevent lower back pain when you're swinging. So shin circle is one that is excellent way to build up your strength. You can also do shin circles in like a stagger stance like this, another great way. Places a little more emphasis on the legs because you got more weight on that front leg. So that's a great exercise. Other exercise I would recommend to build up your leg strength and your core strength for a kettlebell swing would be the thigh rainbow. So split stance position, maybe you go down about a quarter or a half to a half split squat, and you bring that kettlebell up and over. Okay, so strengthens your core, your arms, your legs. Great exercise. And then another great exercise, accessory exercise, would be the around the body handoff. You guys have probably seen this. You may know it as the around the world exercise. Great way to improve your coordination with the kettlebell, improve your bell handling, your core strength, your grip strength, your balance. Okay, so this is a great one that I would recommend before you ever swing to get some of the same benefits as a swing, like it's going to work your cardio, it's going to work your grip, your core, but it's much, much simpler. You don't have to learn all the technique and timing that you do with a kettlebell swing. Kettlebell solo, let me know if I missed any exercises that I should share. Okay, if Chuck asked if I want to build muscle, what are the best moves? And you're really enjoying this live. That's awesome to know. Thank you, Chuck. Thanks for being here. If you want to build muscle with kettlebells, all the exercises I teach in Kettlebell Solo are the way that I would recommend building strength with kettlebells, especially when you're first starting out. All the exercises are fairly simple. There's not a lot of technique required. I showed you some of them. So one would be the thigh rainbow. Okay, you can also, if you want to make this more dynamic, if you want to get similar benefits to the swing in terms of your cardiovascular, you can go ahead and add a pulse to this. Okay, this is going to make this exercise a lot more dynamic, but it's much simpler than a kettlebell swing. You can also do thigh circles. Okay, these are a great way to strengthen up your legs, and they're also fun, okay, because you get to circle the bell around, and it's different from what you've probably seen out there. Then, I also like some exercises you've probably seen out there, like a goblet squat. Okay, I really enjoy and think that slow tempo training is a great way to build strength, especially as a beginner. What that means is 4 counts down, 4 counts up. So it would look like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, you could do the same thing with your deadlift. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's a great way to build strength with a light kettlebell. As far as upper body goes, some exercises I love are a crush grip curl. This is one of my favorites right here. I also love 2-hand press, okay, because this doesn't require as much mobility as a 1-hand press. It's much simpler. And then probably my very favorite, the shoulder rainbow here. Excellent exercise for the triceps, the biceps, obliques, forearms, upper back. Okay, so those are some of my favorites. If you want to see more exercises, I highly recommend checking out the Kettlebell Solo site. We have 7-day free trial if you want to try it, or go to the Kettlebell Solo YouTube, and we have a lot of, you can see based on the Kettlebell Solo that was on here commenting, you can go click on the site there and check out some of our, we have lots of free sample classes on there. PC, I'm glad you like Around the World. It's an awesome exercise. Break Bread Forever, thanks for subscribing. Appreciate it. I am not a bodybuilder, but sometimes I do bodybuilding type exercises. Eugene, you asked what exercises to avoid for someone with a herniated lower back, specifically L5, S1. I would recommend avoiding any exercise that causes pain in the moment or pain the next day. I would focus on exercises that help you to build awareness and mobility in your lower back without causing pain. So again, it's hard for me to say what specific exercises you could avoid because I think it depends on the person. Some people may have a herniated disc and have little to no pain, and some people may have a lot of pain. I think consulting with a physical therapist as far as your specific injury and what exercises should be avoided, it's very difficult for me. I don't feel good giving you a specific answer, not knowing anything about you and your situation. So I would say my general answer is just avoid exercises that are going to cause you pain in the moment or the next day. Those are absolutely ones to avoid. Any other questions? I don't take any powder, so that's my answer to that question. I always think it's funny when people on the internet troll people who are obviously natural for being on steroids. It's just funny. If I was on steroids, I would be way bigger and veinier than I am now. Chuck, you asked, in your opinion, is graduating to 2 kettlebells something that kettlebell enthusiasts should aspire to do? Does it take the workout to the next level. So double kettlebells, absolutely. Double kettlebells are awesome. I would say that it's best to stick for a decent amount of time with a single kettlebell because there's less to focus on. Obviously when you add that second kettlebell, you're doubling the weight. So it is definitely taking it up to the next level. And if you're doing any more technical exercises like swinging with two bells or cleaning with two bells, the complexity really goes up because you're having to kind of track in time with two kettlebells at once. But absolutely, if that's something that interests you, I wouldn't say you should aspire to it. I think if you want to do it, great. If it doesn't interest you, you can get plenty good workout with one kettlebell. But absolutely, if you want to, it's something that you can move forward to, and it definitely is going to take the intensity of the workout up. Elaine, I see you said you would like to start but just don't know what size to buy. That's a great question. It can be kind of confusing what kettlebell to buy. And I may do a live on that because I think it's a very, very common question is what kettlebell to buy. There's so many brands. What weight should I get? What type of kettlebell? I think if you've never done strength training before or you're restarting after a period of time off, I would recommend between 5 and 15 pound kettlebell. Probably more in the 5 to 10 range if you haven't trained in a long time or you're new. For the ladies especially, 5 to 8 would be great. For kettlebell solo in particular, we start very, very light because a lot of the exercises we do, like the one I showed you, the thigh rainbow, you're holding a position for a long time and you're going slow. So you don't need a lot of weight to make this difficult. So I would say if you grab something like a 5 to 10 pound kettlebell, Elaine, that would be a good place to start. You're welcome, Eugene, and thanks for joining. Somebody said that my shoulders look like I'm on steroids, which I'll take as a compliment, and really the main reason they look like that are from kettlebell solo training and eating a lot of protein, and also resting enough. So that actually can make your shoulders look very strong. You do not need to take steroids in order to look strong and have a lot of muscular definition. You do have to be willing to eat plenty of protein and to do some workouts, to do the right type of training. Farron 10, I see you're asking goblet squat, is kettlebell against or held away from the body? You could do it either way. The way that I recommend you do a goblet squat is held away from the body. The reason being, you're gonna work your arms more. So if you want to focus more, the thing about if you keep the kettlebell close to your body, what's gonna happen is you're naturally gonna lean forward more. It's gonna be harder for you to stay upright balance-wise because your center of mass is shifted backwards. So if you do it that way, you're gonna be doing a little bit more of a hinge squat. Again, nothing wrong with it. It's gonna work your muscles. So that's one way. If you do it this way, just know you're gonna focus a little bit more maybe on your hamstrings, your glutes. This way, it's going to be a little bit more on those quads. You're going to use your arms and core more if you hold the kettlebell away from your body. So you can do it either way. Both are correct and can be correct. It just depends on what you want to work and which way you prefer. Any other questions on kettlebell training? On kettlebell training, swings, and any requests for lives for next week? Because we have a live coming on Wednesday at 9. I'm going to be talking about how to structure your workouts. And then I'm going to do another one Thursday at 4:30 p.m. Pacific time. We're going to do a single kettlebell full body workout. So make sure you bring a light to moderate weight kettlebell on Thursday if you're joining me. Hi, Nadia. Thanks for joining. You're welcome, Elaine. Elaine, definitely check out Kettlebell Solo and check out our Jumpstart. This would be a really good way for you to get started. Elaine, if you don't know where to get started, it's free. All you need is that one light kettlebell. You would just sign up for the mailing list and you'll get a workout sent to your inbox every day for the 7 days. They're between 5 to 15 minutes long, so it's not a big commitment. You can get an idea of whether you like the workouts, whether you enjoy kettlebell training, and then, once you know that you love kettlebell training, well, you start buying more kettlebells. Just giving you a heads up, that's usually what happens. If anybody else wants to check out my free 7-day kettlebell jumpstart, I just dropped it in the comments. You just join my email list, a kettlebell solo email list, and it'll send you a workout every day for 7 days. They're follow along, 5 to 10 minutes. It's a perfect way to get started with kettlebells, and at the end of the 7 days, you get a special one-time offer on Kettlebell Solo membership. So if it's something that you're interested in trying, you definitely want to sign up for that so you can grab that exclusive offer. AJ, I'm glad you like the Kettlebell Solo YouTube. Have you tried any of the workouts? Let me know which ones you've tried. Farron 10, how far out do you swing the kettlebell, or arms straight or bent? That's a good question. I'm glad you asked that one because nobody asked that one yet, and it's a common question. So, how far out do you swing the kettlebell? Well, this depends. Again, everybody's technique is a little bit different, but the main thing I would say is you want to have a soft bend in the arms at the top versus arms straight. The reason being, if your arms are totally straight, you're going to have a tendency to pull the bell with your arms instead of focus on driving from the hips. So I would teach a slight bend in the arms at the top so that the kettlebell can float. It should kind of float at the top of the swing rather than if your arms are straight, you're kind of, yanking it back and forth. As far as how far out from the body, it shouldn't be super far away because the farther away it is at the top, it's going to be harder to keep the bell close as you go down. So I would say if you can keep a slight bend, and then that's going to be easier and quicker for the arms to come back into the backswing. So I'll show you my swing again, and you can see how far out I keep the kettlebell. So yeah, it's less important the exact distance, more important that you find what works for you to feel that floating sensation of the kettlebell. And the most important thing is that you're using your legs correctly. If you're using your legs correctly, then I think the arm piece will be easier for it to fall into place. Any other questions that you guys have for me today? We've got just about 3.5 minutes before I'm going to stop the live, so you got a chance to get your question answered. You're welcome. Awesome. Well, AJ, keep trying the classes. Love to hear your thoughts if you try more of them. We're actually starting a 5-week kettlebell strength program inside the Kettlebell Solo membership. So what this is we're working on our strength skills. We're increasing our kettlebell weight as we're decreasing our reps with longer rest periods to build up strength. So if you're interested in knowing how to build strength with kettlebells, it's not too late to join. You can still join my 5-week strength program. You can sign up for the email list, or you can head to kettlebellsolo.com, or you can comment strength program on any of my videos, and I'll send you the link to sign up. Would love for you guys to join and get a better idea of what a sustainable kettlebell strength training program looks like. You're welcome. And if you guys didn't notice my shirt, it's not just a unicorn, it's a kettlecorn. There are kettlebells in the mane of the unicorn, and you also can own one of these awesome tank tops or t-shirts. We have t-shirts for the guys, t-shirts and tank tops for the ladies. If you want to get your own kettlecorn shirt or tank top, I'd love for you to join the kettlecorn movement. I'm going to drop the link. It's on the Kettlebell Partner Passing website. You can check it out there. Would love to see you guys rocking your tank tops and t-shirts. Make sure you tag me if you're wearing it. Any last minute questions or live requests for next week? Sarandeep, I saw you're asking kettlebell shrugs for collar muscle. I'm assuming you're asking if that's a good exercise? Like a shrug like this? Sure, you could do a kettlebell shrug. If you want to work that's like traps up here. If you want to work your chest, then you're going to be wanting to work some pressing exercises to get your pectoral muscles. I'm not sure if that's what you're asking, but. Okay, I'm going to log off this live. Thank you guys so much for your questions. Thank you for joining me. Be sure to join me on Wednesday at 9 a.m. Pacific time, and have a wonderful rest of your Monday.